You're listening to LSPN, the authority on sports-related podcasts.
The Calallen Wildcats weekly press conference is brought to you by the Calallen Touchdown Booster Club. The Touchdown Booster Club exists to support and promote the Calallen High School football program by uniting students, parents, coaches, and the community.
The Calallen Football Show is sponsored by Rat Hole Drilling for all your rat hole, mouse hole, and cellar construction needs. ratholedrilling.com. Also by Nolan's Restaurant. Nolan's Restaurant has been a Corpus Christi tradition. Whether you're craving choice steaks, Gulf Coast seafood, real pit barbecue, or their famous original poor boy sandwich, Nolan's delivers high-quality, scratch-made favorites that feel like home. Come taste generations of flavor at Nolan's. We also want to thank Meyer for their support. All right, everybody, join me in welcoming Coach Charlie Reeve to the show. Coach, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So I'm assuming open week, y'all sat around, did nothing, ate bonbons, right?
Yeah. We just took the week off, and no, it was a good week for us. I thought it was productive, and like we talked about last week, if you can, having the off week or the bye week, the last week of the season, it makes for a long stretch there, but if you can get there relatively healthy, It's a good thing just because you get a chance to kind of get your legs back and ready for the playoffs. But I thought it was a productive week and we needed it. Yeah,
no doubt. And what changes for the coaches during the open week?
Really, I mean, the weekend before, the weekend after the Hidalgo game, we didn't bring our kids up. We didn't bring, our coaches up. And that was really, for the coaches, I mean, that was really our first, day off, since, probably July. And so it was much needed, for our kids and I think, much needed for our coaches to be able to, take a day and get away and kind of recharge the batteries. But, we try to keep very similar to our practice schedule, that we normally do in a regular game week. But, it gives us a chance to, kind of find focus on some things, on us and getting back to some basics on some things. But, it comes at a good time, getting ready for the playoffs. But like I said, I thought it was a productive week for us.
Excellent. And as we go into the postseason, it's tradition to bring up some kids from the sub-varsity. Talk about why that's important.
Sure. We talked to our kids after the last, regular season game. It's, there's no more freshman JV team, varsity team. It's, we're all Calallen Wildcats now, and everybody's, we're all one unit. And, speaking, specifically of our JV team, we've talked about this before, but our JV team does, that they're such a huge part of, our success on Friday nights, because those guys, they're primarily, giving us, scout looks throughout the week. And so for those guys to be able to come up and travel and be a part of this, I think is a big deal. And we're bringing a handful of freshmen up. And I think just them being around the speed of the game and what a varsity practice looks like and varsity game day and the varsity game day atmosphere and experience, I think is big for their development and to get those guys some experience. So, it's always a good time when you can, involve with those guys and get those guys, part of the varsity experience.
Yeah, no doubt. And what about having that open week? how did that affect your game planning for by district?
Well, we had a pretty good idea that it was going to be El Campo. So first part of the week, we kind of focused on us, and there was a lot of good on good, stuff that we did on our own, and kind of focused on ourselves and kind of getting back to some fundamental stuff. And then later, towards the end of the week, we started to kind of introduce some thoughts and some things looking ahead to El Campo. But it's always good. It gives you a little bit of time to not have to rush and kind of think through some things. So again, it comes at a good time, and I thought it was productive for us.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about El Campo, Reeve Bowl 2. I tell you that, I love stories like that, and I understand that, it's probably not the best for you and your brother.
Yeah, no, it definitely makes for a good story and a good headline, just like last year, at the end of the day, it's two really good teams, two really good programs. It's for the fans, it's a great first round matchup, but they've got a great team, and I know the work that they put in and the detail that they prepare with, and they're going to have a great plan coming in. But they've got a really good team, and we've talked about it before. I think that district is probably by far the best top to bottom district in Region 4. You look at last week's game versus Lavernia. El Campo was up 14-0 in a hurry, and they go into halftime. I think it was 17-10, and had a chance to win it late. The week before, had a chance to beat Port Lavaca, who ended up, which is another story, but ended up beating Bay City last week. But they're going in to score to win the game at the end and fumble it, and so there's not a lot of separation between 1 through 4 in that district, and anybody that's coming out of that district, in the playoffs is going to be a really good team. So we've got to play really well, and they've got some really good players, and they're well coached, and so we're gonna have to play really well.
Yeah, well, let's talk about some of those really good players and what you expect them to line up in, things like that.
Well, I think they do as good a job as anybody of scheming what you do. But who they are, I don't think is going to change. They want to run the ball. They've got 2 or 3 backs that can really go, and really got good speed. And if they get in space, they can really cause trouble. I think they come off the ball really well up front. And then, they've got a chance to run by you, and they've got some receivers that can really stretch the field. And I think they do a great job as far as throwing the deep ball but they do a really good job of schematically about, trying to attack, getting leverage and getting numbers and, but yeah, at the end of the day, just like us, we want to run the ball. And so we're going to have to do a great job as far as stopping the run defensively. Schematically wise, there's a lot of things that they can do. And I think they do a really good job of mixing up different looks. And they've got 2 linebackers that account for probably 80% of their tackles. And they do a good job as far as up front and keeping those guys off their linebackers and letting those guys run and making the ball go sideline to sideline instead of north and south. And they've got some guys in the back end that if you hang the ball up in the air, they're going to go get it. So I think they're really well coached in all 3 phases. And like I said, it's got to be a physical game, and we've got to play really well. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about their coach, because, I've got relationships with other coaches like the Dodges, Todd Dodge and Son Riley, and they played together against each other. And when they saw it was going to happen, they went from communicating on a daily basis and talking football to like, okay, maybe not so much. Has that happened with you and Travis where you don't talk as much football now?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, I think it's kind of become more of a, you know, we joke with each other about, trading huddle logins and stuff like that. But, no, I mean, it adds a different element, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's family and whoever, comes out of this thing is going to be rooting for the other one. And just unfortunately it's got to happen first round.
Yeah, exactly. Finally, Coach, you talked about open week being a chance to recuperate. How is the team health-wise?
I think we're pretty good. We're a whole lot better than we were earlier in the year. And, we still got some guys that are out and still trying to make it back. But I think we're probably as good as anybody at this point in the year. I don't think anybody's coming in the playoffs 100% healthy. And the good thing is, throughout the year, because of some injuries, is that we've been able to, create some depth at some different positions and hopefully that pays off for us. Right on.
Well, Coach, gosh, again, congratulations on a win on Open Week.
Yeah.
And best of luck this week coming up in Reeve Bowl too.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
Since 2012, JE Construction Services has built the roads and infrastructure that keeps South Texas moving. Their heavy civil expertise covers refinery work, underground utilities, paving, and more. If you want a dependable, full-service contractor, choose JE Construction Services. Visit their website at jecs.cc. That's JE Construction Services.